to do a video on the pros and cons of having thick locks. I personally get a lot of compliments on my locks and I really appreciate it. People always say, oh, I wish I had started my locks like yours, or I'm going to start my locks like yours, or I'm going to combine my locks and I hope they end up looking like yours. Thank you so much. I appreciate it because I also enjoy the thickness of my locks. I want to make this video to give a little information if you're thinking about getting thick locks on what you're getting into with some pros and cons. I just want to give you a somewhat objective view on the experience of having thick locks. Even though I love them, you know, there are some downsides, so I want to share them. So I'm just gonna get the ball rolling here. So I have 5 of each. Pro number 1, thick locks are good for thick hair. I have super thick hair. When I was very young and I got like braids and stuff in my hair, I was tender-headed. It always took really long and it fucking hurt. I hated it. When I got a little older, going to the salon, get relaxers, they always put the extra strong shit in my head. It burned my scalp off and I fucking hated it and it hurt. And then I went through my awkward phase and I'm gonna talk about that. My locks were started on a whim. My aunt put my hair in 2-strand twists and I just kept them in. I didn't know what thickness they were gonna be or anything, but I'm glad they turned out the way they did, because thick locks are good for thick hair. They take all that hair and they condense it down to something a little more manageable, which is good because thick hair is something to manage. If you have really thick hair like I do, if I had gotten like small locks, I would have about 1 million of them and it would take forever to do. But I have these, I have 70 something of them. I don't know exactly, and it takes a lot less time for me to do them, which leads me to reason number 2. Thick locks means less locks, which means if you maintain your locks, it takes less time and less product to maintain them, which is just, who doesn't love that? Pro number 3. Thick locks, I believe, are more forgiving if you don't want to twist your hair that often. I've seen a lot of people with more traditional size locks or smaller who want to do semi-freeform and then they don't twist their hair for a long time and they end up with breakage because a little piece of afro can't support this whole lock, so their hair is breaking. But when you have thicker locks, it's a much thicker piece of hair holding the lock, so when you don't twist, it's not, your locks aren't going to be like pulling so much on your hair and are much less likely to break off, I think. I barely twist my hair and I've never had an issue with breakage because of that. And I think with thinner locks it happens, I've seen it happen a few times. Pro number 4 is, at least for me, that thick locks are a little more bold, you know, a little less prominent, a little more non-conforming, and I really like that. I believe they're bold and beautiful and they look amazing and they're a little different, and I just love that. So that's pro number 4 for me. Number 5, this is debatable, which will lead me into the cons, but they arguably hold up better over time. If someone has thick locks and they're super long, you don't see a lot of like really thin spots or like ends breaking off as much as you do when someone has thinner locks and they get really long. You know what I mean. And pro number 5 actually leads me to con number 1, because I don't believe pro number 5 will be true if you have thin hair. Thick locks aren't that great if you have thin hair, or fine hair rather. If you have fine hair, when you get these thick locks, your head's gonna be mad scalpy because they're not gonna be like lots of layers of them. And if you like that, hey, if you don't like that, that's a problem. And 2, less hair trying to support these kind of thick locks, and then you might be more prone to breakage over time as your hair gets longer. So that's con number 1. Thick locks aren't that great if you have sort of fine hair, at least in my opinion. Con number 2 is that if you're really into length checks and growing and ooh, look, they shaking, y'all, they shaking. If you into all that, thick locks take longer to grow. Now I put grow in quotation marks because I think people don't realize that twisting affects length. If you consistently twist your hair, it's gonna grow faster because you're manipulating it to do that. If you don't twist your hair that often, it's just gonna compact more. You know, you're gonna get this fro, it's gonna compact, and it's not gonna show that length that it could possibly show if you were stretching it out by twisting. See somebody's videos and you know they're like, oh, or their pictures and they're like, oh, your locks grow so fast. Those people usually get their hair maintained regularly, so they're regularly stretching their hair to show the length. So if you're into all that, thick locks might not be for you because they don't grow as fast because they're more compact. It's more compact. Thinner locks get stretched out more, thicker locks not so much. Con number 3. Thick locks are more difficult to style. Thin locks, as they get longer, more and more resemble and behave like loose, straight hair, sort of. Thick locks are sort of always gonna be the locks. They're always gonna look like locks, and they're gonna behave like locks, and they're gonna behave like thick ropes, really, on your head. And they're a little more difficult to style. Maybe a lot. I don't know yet. I don't really style my hair that often. I don't have super long hair, so I haven't tried. But I would assume, because they're more difficult to style now. And con number 4, when you get these things wet, it takes so long for them to dry. Oh my lord. And then if you don't let them dry all the way, you will get mildew. If you want to air dry, in the beginning that was cool. At this point, almost 4 years, I can't air dry. You know how long it takes to air dry? I have a bonnet dryer, not like I don't go to the salon or anything. I have a bonnet dryer, it's pretty gentle, and you know, I sit under that for like 2 hours. Con number 5 is that people really like to touch them. Like, you know, I think more than traditional thinner locks, people will come up and be like, oh, your locks are so pretty, they're so thick, I don't usually see them like that. And before you know it, their hands reaching out, can I touch them? I don't really like to be touched by strangers, so that's a con for me. But there you have it, the pros and cons of having thick locks. I hope this gave you some insight on the life of a thick locker. Gave you something to think about. That's all for now.